Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to cover what's new for Summon and Entoda 360 services. I'm Brent Cook. I'm the product manager for Summon, and I'm here to talk to you about all of those various services and products. We'll take a little bit of time to review some recent improvements we did for Summon, just to remind you and hopefully get you to go out there and turn those features on and use them. We'll also provide a look ahead, particularly in the May release, which is coming up in about 2 weeks for both 360 Entoda and Summon. We'll talk a little bit about the Summon roadmap and what we have planned for the rest of the year. Touch base on a few things for you to know about, such as webinars and some upcoming maintenance, and then we'll have some time for your questions. So let's first talk a little bit about some of the improvements we've done recently for Summon. As we do planning for Summon and Discovery, there's a variety of pillars we'd like to focus on to make sure that we have a well-rounded system. These are the ones that we use when we're considering building out our roadmap. It's certainly built on input from you, and we'll talk some about that more as we go along. But in particular, we search and exploring, making sure that the relevance is there and that we're using the metadata in the best possible way to make it possible to find the materials that your patrons want and need. Building open systems, making sure that our APIs work not only with our systems internally, but also with external systems that they're easy to build with and work with, and then we integrate well with your entire library ecosystem. The user experience, including accessibility, making sure that your users have the tools they need to refine their search and have the best possible experience while they're at your discovery system. And then library empowerment, which includes tools to help you and your librarians do your job as best you possibly can. And you'll note that the various features are color-coded and show the various areas that we have focused in on. And we'll start off by talking a little bit about the database A to Z list within Summon. We did that integration with Spring Share at the end of last year. You can see it there on the right-hand side of the screen. That red box is around that's your database finder. This allows you to easily activate this feature and allow users to search simultaneously on the search term within Summon, then also in your database finder in case there's a specific database that they might benefit from going to directly. So that should provide a better pathway to discover all of your databases. And I should note that that last feature and this one were both ones that came out of the 2020 New Enhancement Request System, or NERS. You can see the icon in the upper right-hand corner. Of course, all the roadmap is shaped on your input and what you need in order to be successful. NERS is the direct voting system via ELUNA and Igloo that allows you to, or empowers you to get features on the roadmap and be guaranteed they'll be delivered for this year. We got a lot of great features coming out this year based off of that process, and this is another one that came out at the end of last year, which is that you told us on the Idea Exchange loud and clear that you put a lot of the information that you like in Best Bets in LibAnswer FAQs already, and you don't want to have to do the data entry twice. So we built a mechanism to harvest those Best Bets quickly and easily. You can use the LibAnswers API to harvest those LibAnswers into Best Bets, and there are keywords generated using the metadata from those LibAnswers. So it's quick, it's easy, it's a great way to manage and expand your Best Bets. And then finally, we did make some improvements in February. We updated the APA citation style to the 7th edition. A couple things to highlight around that. At the time, we were getting feedback you'd also like the 6th edition as well. Both of those are available now, and also they're labeled clearly the 7th and 6th edition. So you can now export items in this APA 7th edition format. It's accessible via the saved items folder or using the citation icon you find in the brief results on that results page. If you are interested, again, you have both now, and we've also labeled them so that they say 6th and 7th edition. You've got the 6th edition right there. I happen to have it in the disabled column for this example. If you want to enable it, just drag that over to the enabled column, drop it, and then hit Save Settings. And of course, the order that they're stacked in is the order they will show up. And then you've also got the 7th edition right there. And again, if for some reason you prefer a different label or your patrons are used to seeing that written in a different way, you can go to the citations, or excuse me, to the translations tab, which is in the upper middle of the bar at the top of the screen. Do a search for that text and replace it with whatever you'd like. Next, I want to pivot and look forward a couple of weeks to our releases coming up on May 12th. The first one is for 360 and Entoda. It is should be completed in a day. We don't expect any downtime for this release, and we're excited about it. There's a variety of things coming out in it. We have finalized the template for 360 MARC updates. I'll show you some information on that and talk about next steps there. We've done a lot of work around Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG compliance at the level A level. And again, that's for accessibility for the website for 360 and total products. 360 holding API performance testing is continuing. We did some work in Q1, and I'll talk about that and talk about next steps around the API. And then finally, I've got some good news around Counter R5 provider-specific handling reports, and what you'll expect to see there. So for the video MARC template, we've worked with metadata libraries to develop a solid template for all your video resources. If you take a look at that red box in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, that's an example of the 3XX fields, a visual indicator of how things will look different from book and journal records. Got that template now. Our next step is to engage with our early testers for that, to evaluate the template. We know that you like a lot of customizations in your MARC records, so we're going to gauge how much customization is desired, what type, and what's required. And then we will create a general rollout process. And we'll also factor in early testing feedback, so we expect to get that rolled out here shortly. But again, that will be factored in based on the feedback we get on this initial template. Now, as I mentioned, we're working on WCAG level A compliance for accessibility. Accessibility is something we always work on all our products. We monitor it regularly and work to improve it as best we can, as soon as we can. Last release, we focused on the EJP, the Electronic Journal Portal. This time around, we included a lot of improvements for 360 Core. Things like missing labels for areas such as logos, radio buttons, and some research controls. Making sure that we properly identify groups under table filtering and make sure the controls are properly labeled so that you can have screen readers and other elements interact with them better on the screen. A variety of labeling around some links that we need to address, and a few other items. So all of these things will be reflected in the VPAC. So once these changes are in place, we will update that. If you ever want to see what our standing is on our accessibility compliance, you can go to the ProQuest directory and find the VPACs there. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the 360 Holdings API. We did some work with it at the end of last year, and we released it in the first quarter for some initial testing. That initial testing was promising. However, we were seeing that the processing time was taking a little bit too long. Full exports were taking longer than we wanted, and also we want to make sure that Delta exports were working well. So we've been working on making sure that the entire system is more performant, and we have better throughput, and adding infrastructure to support these various exports. So our next steps on that 360 Holdings API is to take these improvements that we have, release them to the early testing partners again, make sure that they are performing as expected and desired. And once that's approved, we'll then integrate this into the developer network framework. So you can easily go out there and access that 360 Holdings API. I also want to give you some news around the R5 reports, the counter R5 reports. We will release an update of these, the intelligent assessment reports, and it will include a variety of out-of-the-box reports. That includes books, journals, and database reports. Platform reports are still in the works, but they're not available quite yet. We'll be making that available as soon as possible. We've also updated the subject areas for custom reports. So you can see those here on the right-hand side of the screen. We've added all the metrics for R5 reports to books, journals, and databases. So look for that rollout shortly after the release next on May 12th, excuse me, in 2 weeks. And then finally, in addition to a lot of individual bug fixes and customer support issues that we've addressed in this release, we've done a lot of work on counter R5 reports, fixing errors or dealing with various configuration issues. It is challenging working through the errors and coding around issues that are part of this reporting process. There is a standard, and we're working to that standard as best we possibly can. And we find that there are different ways to interpret the standards or just things that we need to accommodate, such as, for example, the publisher field is required as part of these reports. However, many of the publishers, when they send us their metadata, leave that column empty. So we need to address those types of issues and make sure all the data is clean in order to provide the reports to you. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the Some in May release. Again, that's, excuse me, I've got the dates wrong there on the screen, but it's coming up in 2 weeks. That's on May 12th. And the preview starts tomorrow on April 28th. As I mentioned, we had the February release come out on February 3rd, and that was successful. May 12th, we have 2 features that are coming that are courtesy of the NERS enhancement process. The new filter separating print books from ebooks, the ability to apply your proxy to the DOI link in the preview pane. We've got some topic source display improvements as well. And I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing in the background to work on direct links to PDFs in the July early access there. I'll also share some of the work we've been doing with the Summit Early Adopter Access Program. We completed a lot of the development in the first quarter, and we've moved forward on that. I'll give you an update on where we stand with SARV and Summit. But first, let's talk about the new facet and the ability to facet only on print or ebooks at one time when searching. This has been at the top of the idea exchange for some time. This has been a request that you've had, and it came out on the top of the NERS voting last year, and that is the ability to break out the facet that currently combines both print and ebooks as a single content type. That combined facet will remain, and you will have access and use to that if you'd like. But you also have the ability to turn on a print facet only and an ebooks only facet as well. And you'll have the ability to include or exclude. And as I mentioned, this will be configurable by your institution. So to configure this, under settings, refine your search. And that is highlighted right there. And then once you go to refine your search, the first thing you need to do is turn on physical books backend processing. There actually needs to be an index process that goes through the index and prepares your instance of Summon for this. You're going to turn that on right here. You see that physical books backend processing set to off. Now you're going to switch that to on. Click the Save Settings button to make sure that that saves. And then you'll need to wait for an index update to complete before you can turn on the facets and have the facets work properly. So this process won't affect the existing book and ebook facet. As I said, that remains before, as it does before. You just need to turn on the backend processing, wait a week, and then the facets will be ready for you to turn on. So to turn those on, once that index process has been completed, for print, set the physical books filter enabled to on. You can see that right there with the red arrow on the right-hand side. For electronic books, set ebooks filter enabled to on. Hit Save Settings, and within 5 minutes after you enable it or you disable it, that change will be reflected in your instance of Summon. Because this requires a change in the index, you won't be able to see this in the preview environment, but you will be able to preview it after the release goes into production and after you've set that physical books backend processing to go. Again, a week after that set, we'll be able to view this either in preview or in production. And again, make sure you save settings for any changes that you make there, and those changes take place within about 5 minutes. Next, I want to talk a little bit about improvements we have for the topic source display. Currently, if you look at the encyclopedia entry under Topic Explorer, it lists the source that's usually the package name and not necessarily the name of the content that the person will click through to if they click on the Read More link. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there, where it may say one source at the, within Topic Explorer, and then you click through to the in content, and it's another source. We are working to align that better, so more often those should represent the same thing and provide a better user experience so that people can get what they expect when they click on that link. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the ability to apply EZProxy to the DOI link in the preview pane. Right now, that link is visible in the preview pane. However, it does not apply the same proxy that you have applied to the rest of your site. This new feature will give you the ability to turn that on and have the proxy information applied to your link. To make that happen, again, you look under Settings and then Search Results, which you can see that right there. Switch the DOI links enabled to Custom and On. That's down there at the bottom on the right-hand side there. You can see. Click on the Save Settings, and the changes should be reflected in about 5 minutes. And whatever proxy settings that you have for the remainder of your site should now be applied to the DOI. So next I want to talk a little bit about the CRV Summon project. As I mentioned earlier, in the first quarter, we finished a lot of the development for it. I've spent the last few weeks here working with our early adopters to get things configured to make it available for you. This will make it easier for your patrons, if you're a Sierra customer and a Summon customer, to easily access holding information, perform actions on the page, view a My Library card page, and simplify administration overall by staff. We are in the middle of the early adopter access program that should wrap up in the first half of this year, and then this should become available in the second half of the year. In order to use this, you do need to have CAS installed for Sierra and be on one of the more recent APIs for Sierra as well. Hopefully you're set up for that. If not, you might want to get ready, because again, this will be available in the second half of the year. And here are a few screenshots to show you exactly what's coming as part of this process, and that is the ability to take a look at the availability, both on the search results page and in the detail areas, being able to see multiple issues or instances of that content available. You've also got the ability to request, so you can click on that request button, select what location you'd like to have that come from, and then get confirmation. And again, all that's being tested right now with the early adopters. We're just finishing our initial configurations, and in the next few weeks we'll be in a round of feedback. We'll do a second round in the summer, and then depending on the feedback there, we will make this functionality available to see our customers as soon as possible after that. So sometime in the second half of the year. Next, I want to take a few minutes to share some information on the roadmap and talk a little bit about what we've got happening in the August and December releases. So the August release is on August 4th. Again, as I mentioned, we'll continue that work on CRV Summon. We'll add short URLs for citations. That's a NERS feature coming to you courtesy of ELUNA in the August release. Same with better tag matching for best bets. We're going to work on subject heading normalization as part of CDI overall, and more convenient access to full text, direct links to PDFs, direct links to HTML, and full text in general. We expect that to be available in October, but some of that work will be done in August, and we'll be doing some early access testing there as well. And then I'll touch base a little bit on the December 15th release. Again, we've got a variety of NERS features that are coming out of that, a user interface refresh, and some improved tools for managing database recommenders. Let's focus on that August 4th quarterly release, as I mentioned. The preview will begin on July 21st, 2 weeks prior, as usual. As I mentioned, there'll be some more CRV Summon work coming out. Right now, we're focusing in on the availability and requests. And the second phase will include patron information in My Library card page where you can interact with things. We'll also include an improvement for URLs for citations. Currently, for our permalinks and for other URLs throughout the system, we create an encrypted URL. The benefit of that is that if the source for that particular piece of content changes from the time that the link is created to the time the person comes to check the source, the link stores enough information so it can resolve that and make sure that the person still gets to that end piece of content that they want. The challenge with that is that it makes exceptionally long URLs. And I know from feedback from you and from patrons that your citations pages can get longer than your entire paper because of the length of these URLs. So we are addressing this by creating a short URL management system specifically for Summon. This should improve for all citation styles and replace that long URL to make everything cleaner, nicer, and easier to format. We're also making some improvements around best bets for better tag matches. Again, this is something that came out of the NERS voting. Currently, best bets show up only when there's an exact match. This will make the matching a little more sophisticated so that if the keywords are present in the search, it will also trigger a best bet. This will reduce the need for you to create extensive variations of the tags to match potential user queries and make sure that that information is more present and more readily available when patrons need it. Then, as I mentioned, we've got a program we're working on to provide more direct links to full text, particularly PDF and some HTML examples as well. This will be configurable by institution and will allow you to make sure that if there are direct links, these will be available. And again, this is a little bit out of sync. It isn't coming out specifically with the release. We're doing some early access beginning in July, rolling through August. And then, assuming all that testing goes well, it should be accessible for everyone in October. Next, I want to talk just a little bit about the December quarterly release. That's going live on December 15th. We've got a slightly longer preview window beginning on November 24th. Usually that fourth quarter release is in November. We've shifted it to December 15th for a couple of different reasons. One is to make sure that we have that longer preview, and two, to make sure that we time the release so that it's closer to the end of your quarter. We are going to do a light user interface refresh. That's why we want to have that longer preview and shift it to the end of the year so that any changes you might need to make to any training materials or anything else you have time to do. It won't be a complete overhaul of the interface, but it will be a way to improve placement and usability features on the results page. It's been a few years since we've improved the page, and we've added a lot of functionality. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's all working together well. We want to make sure that we're taking a look at facets, the results shorts display, and the preview window to make sure that that's as useful as possible. And also to review accessibility and make sure that we're as compliant with accessibility as possible and actually go beyond that. We want to make sure that people can use Summon as best they possibly can, given whatever access or situation they have. And again, it's not a completely new UI. It may require some updates to training materials, so we will give an extended preview and give you as much of a heads up on the changes that are coming as far in advance as possible. A few other things to expect as part of that December release is the ability to do an exact search on additional fields. Currently, there's only a few that you can do exact match on the advanced search page. We'll expand that to include things like call number, ISBN, ISSN, DOI, and more. We're also, again, courtesy of NERS, I'm going to be working on improving the did you mean or corrected spelling feature. Currently, most search engines or most areas where you do search, they will automatically correct for the spelling when you do the search and provide a way to revert back to the original typing if that's what you want. Currently, someone does it the other way around. We search as you typed and provide a link to the corrected spelling. We will flip that and we'll build in a little bit of intelligence to make sure that we are replacing misspelled words and not misreading the situation. We're also going to add some improved database recommender management tools. Currently, you have to go in and manage databases one by one. That can be very time consuming. So we want to expand that to batch processing so you can download your current configuration, edit that in a program such as Excel or some spreadsheet program, upload it again, and make those changes much easier. And then finally, you'll have the ability to display all links in the results. So you can choose how you want that to occur, but basically it'll give you the ability to display all the full text links that you subscribe to in your knowledge base. And then finally, I just want to point out some ongoing work that we do in 2021. Because of the nature of these various areas, the improvements come throughout the year in maintenance releases and in quarterly releases, but we're constantly looking at relevance and how we can improve that, looking at feedback we get from you and from patrons, and also looking at how people are interacting with the results and plan improvements around that. Taking a look at performance, particularly around search response time and how we manage the various loads that we get for traffic during peak times of the quarter or semester. Also rights processing, how can we improve the performance for that and make it more reliable? As I've mentioned several times in this presentation, we're constantly working on accessibility. We do have a big push, like I said, when we do that UI refresh in December, and we make other changes for accessibility throughout the year as those issues come up. And then finally, improvements on analytics and reporting. So that brings us to the end of the features, but I want to take a little bit of time to give you some updates around some maintenance we have planned and some upcoming webinars and ELUNA in particular. As a reminder, hopefully you've heard, we are doing a data center move on May 29th and 30th. And this is during the Memorial Day weekend here in the US with up to 24 hours of downtime. We are doing this in phases to reduce the risk. However, we will need up to 24 hours to make that data center move. The services that are impacted, Summon, it'll be available for searching. It will work just fine. However, linking to resources through 360 will be impacted and won't be available. So your users will be able to access Summon, access any content they have in Summon, do searches, but some of the links may not work. So for the 360 suite, that means up to 24 hours outage, and we're going to try to reduce that as much as possible, but we have planned for up to 24 hours of outage that day. Services that are affected, 360 Core and Client Center, 360 Link, EJP, 360 Search, Overworks Web, and Toda, all will not be available for that 24 hours. Again, the biggest impact there for your Summon patrons is that 360 Link piece, so linking may be not working during that 24-hour window. Again, we're going to try to minimize that and keep it as short as possible, but it may be up to 24 hours during that time frame. CDI overall will not be impacted. The index will be available. Searches will be available to be conducted against it using the API or Summon or Primo or any other product that relies on CDI. The main services there will still be up and running. The two areas that will be impacted, though, are search updates will be stopped for up to a week. We won't need to skip one index, possibly two. We're going to try to minimize that again, but we want to be safe in what we plan for. And rights updates. For the day that we're doing this, we won't be able to process those rights. So there might be up to 24 hours of outage where there's no updates. Those will be implemented as soon as possible, as soon as the maintenance is done. There's a lot of information around this. After the meeting or after this webinar, we will share this PowerPoint that includes this information and these links. So no need to jot this down. I'll make sure you have it. There is a recommendation page out there that has the recommendations for how you can prepare for the migration. Those are available, accessible online at that link, as you can see there. And again, we'll make this available. And there's an FAQ page as well, covering questions we think you might have. And you'll find that again on that link there on the slide. And this would be a good time to remind you about the updated status page. If you haven't gone out and subscribed to the CDI instance or the Summon instance, I highly encourage that you do that. There's also ones around 360 and Toda. We just recently refreshed the page. It's got a great new look to it, and the various services are grouped together by platform, which makes it easier to find the instance that you're looking for. So please go out there to status.xlibrisgroup.com and sign up for email alerts if you are interested. And then finally, I just want to talk about some of the things that we have coming up online here. ELUNA 2021, the annual meeting online, is happening here soon. It's in about a week. We're really excited about that, and as always, to work with the ELUNA community. The opening session with XLibris updates is available, will occur on May 3rd, and also talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That will be on May 3rd from 1 to 4 Eastern. Teaching and learning platforms, we'll be talking about updates on that on May 5th. Support, SFX, Rosetta, and ELUNA 101 will be on May 11th. We'll be looking at our research tools on May 13th and having things around Esploro, Rialto, analytics, and linked open data. For discovery, that's the day that we'll cover Summon and CDI and all things discovery. That's May 18th. Alma and content library management tools, that'll be May 19th. We'll look at resource sharing on May 25th. And then the closing session with the ex-Libris vision will be on May 27th. So that's a lot of great content coming. You can register for that now. Again, the URL's at the bottom of the screen. We'll make sure that that's available to you. And thanks again to all of you for your participation with Summon in general, with ELUNA in particular, and with this great annual meeting. There's always lots of good information to share. Thank you, everyone, for your time today, and I appreciate your input on the listserv, in the Idea Exchange, and NERS. I definitely listen and use that to help hopefully improve the product and make it work better for you and your patrons. As always, if you have any questions or you think of something after the fact, you can email me. My email address is there on the screen, brent.cook@exlibrisgroup.com. And thanks again for your time today.